chance. They were born in bloody circumstance. To go, leave me, run like you've never run before. A voice from the underground, given room to breathe, not but be drowned. So die if you get the chance. Better men than you've been, let this dance. To go, leave me, run like you've never run before. I have seen the worst, and there is nothing left for me to hate, so I can lay me down, my brothers, on the ground. I bled today until Coyote comes to raise me up and carries me away. To go, leave me, run like you never did. No, believe me, run like you've never run before.
Just thought we'd give a wee bit of Batman there just to celebrate a wee bit of an in-joke that we might go into later on. Good evening, one and all. Welcome to the Scottish Rugby Podcast, sponsored by Manscaped.com. I am clearly not Cammy Black. You'll be getting used to this by now, my Cammy Black impersonation, but Cammy has handed the reins over to the cats at a rave, the felines at the disco, once again. So I'm John Anderson. I'm hosting tonight, and joining me is my trusty sidekick, Ian Hay.
Aye, trusty indeed. Aye, hello everyone, how are we?
The reason for the bat nipples there was Ian might have taken offence earlier on to being suggested that he was... Have you seen the movie Sky High, where they distribute people into heroes? And it's a kids movie, right? But it's quite good. If you've not seen it, you should watch it. They split kids up into sidekicks and heroes, and I kind of thought of that.
Right, no, I haven't seen that. Is it...
Well worth it. Well worth a watch.
Better be.
I mean, we've got a message from the boss here.
That's Cammy swearing already.
That's rude, isn't it? Honestly, can't take him anywhere. Anyway, yes, we are brought to you tonight in association with Manscaped.com. We'll get this bit out of the way, will we? They are the premier connoisseurs of male downstairs grooming. We are sponsored by them. We are paid by them. So let's be upfront like that. We don't want to get into trouble with all the socials. Manscaped do a range of products, from nose trimmers all the way down to the trimmers that you would expect to see downstairs. We've both had a shot of the products, Ian. Good fun.
I mean, that's one way of putting it. Also, products you expect to see downstairs. Well,
I
you know,
mean,
it's a new age, isn't it? You know, it's 2021 these days. You know, we're
exactly.
new age woke people apparently.
Wait. Oh, see, I'm not as quick as Cammy for this, right?
No, I know.
Here we go, right? Yep, you used the W word. There's a wee woke klaxon going off during the Manscaped advert. They'll be thrilled. So, yeah, they also do other products, as we've said a few times. They do a variety of kind of lotions and potions. Ball toner, which is very nice on your fingers. They also do ball deodorant. And they have their own signature, like Beyonce, like, I don't know who else has signature brands. I just think of Beyonce.
Jordan, Katie Price.
Like Katie Price, like
and Brittany and all the rest of them.
Oh, are we still living in 2008, mate? Yeah,
Yes.
like all the big celebs, like Katie Price and Brittany, they have their own signature brand aftershave, which is very nice. So, basically, what you need to do, your call to action, boys and girls, is to head on over to manscaped.com if you're interested. Put the promo code SRP and you'll get yourself 20% off your order and you'll get free shipping, which is very good. And as it says there, your boss will thank you. I mean, I would recommend that, you know, it's a unisex product. Both sexes have hair. That's all I'm saying.
They do. And you get a lovely travel bag if you buy one of the more sort of deluxe kits. And excellent boxers. The bestest boxers.
The bestest. The boxers are absolutely mint. They're so good. So, if for nothing else, get yourself over there and get some boxers because they are very, very good. So, shall we talk some rugby?
Yes, but should we also, for the viewers, explain why we are dressed in black? Because it's a formal and mournful occasion, right?
It's a form, yeah. So I want everybody to bow their heads in a moment's silence for today.
My head there, I just saw like where my hair's
yeah, we
spinning.
don't want to see the top of your head, mate. Yeah, don't bow your heads. Put it further back. Yeah. So today we'll crack on with the news because today the main news coming out is Tommy Seymour has announced his retirement from rugby, which is why we are suited. We worked out that both of us, none of us own a tie properly. So.
I couldn't find my black tie, so I'm wearing Ross McDowell's Glasgow Warriors tie.
So yeah, I mean, Seymour has retired. It seems to be suggesting with immediate effect. It kind of didn't seem to be suggesting he would be back.
No, it didn't suggest that at all. He's had a couple of concussion issues this season. Obviously, that's a major issue, as we all know. And I mean, I think he was out of contract at the end of the summer, I believe. 32 years old. I don't know whether Glasgow have offered him a new contract or not, but you know, we've signed a lot of back three recruits over the course of the last few months. So it's probably been a decision between the club and himself. You know, he's got a young family to consider, and he's, you know, what else could he achieve? So for me, Tommy Seymour is one of my favourite Warriors players of all time. I think he's the best winger we've had, and certainly since I've been a season ticket holder for the last 8 years or so.
Yeah.
Just an outstanding player. At his peak, he was one of the best, if not the best winger in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yep.
Just had everything you wanted from a winger. You know, great in the air, one full step, fast, good defender as well. I don't think people realise how good he was at reading the game.
Yeah.
There's been so many glorious moments of Tommy Seymour's career, both in Glasgow Warriors black and Scotland's dark blue. He retires as the fourth highest scorer in Scottish Test rugby history. So a fantastic career, and I'm sure I speak for every Warrior and probably every Scotland fan when I say thank you very much for everything that you did, Tommy.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. it's been really interesting actually after the announcement earlier on, because it was earlier on today. If you're if you're listening on catch up, guys, it is the 28th of April 2021. Skynight has not taken over yet, so we are still here. It's been really interesting seeing the kind of outpouring of gratitude towards Tommy Seymour. Everyone, he's one of those players who is universally liked. I don't think there's been anyone, sometimes you get players retire and it's like, well, all right, fair enough. He just comes across as a very, very nice man. And as you said, in that period, sort of end of the 2015 World Cup through to sort of 20, so till he went on the Lions tour, till Warren Gatland broke him. He was one of the best wingers in the world. And the intercept, that for me, that will always stand out as Tommy Seymour's signature move. He was the first Scottish player that I've seen that consistently read. And you talked about reading the game in defence. He got that intercept right every time, and he scored a lot of tries. So 20 tries in 55 tests for Scotland, which is not to be sniffed at.
That is some record at international level. One of the few men to score in every single game at a World Cup match. Right. We're talking about intercepts. When I've been looking at the tribute videos, the one he gets against New Zealand is off a pass off Richie McCaw, and it is so hard to take. He's left-handed at his knee, and he still manages to control it, clutch onto it, and then just bolt away. Tremendous player. Tremendous player,
and Father Time has caught up with him, but he will leave Glasgow with absolute best wishes. And you've shared a few of your favourite Tommy Seymour moments today as well, Ian. For me, that try against Exeter, even though he's the finisher, but jeez, so good.
I mean, that whole thing involves him, Russell, and Hogg, and those three together. The number of times you'd see a Finn Russell cross kick either for Glasgow or Scotland that ends up with a Tommy Seymour try, or just Hogg and Seymour figuring each other out and knowing where to go. Another signature move of Seymour's was to be in centre field off a set piece move, be it scrum or line out. And then, people just didn't know how to handle it because he could step either way. He played left wing for a while. We were talking to someone earlier, a guy called Sam. He was on the left wing for a while, then he moved to the right wing. It was easy for him. Tremendous servant.
I think it's worth pointing out as well. He's one of, aside from the last couple of seasons, he's one of the players who, so he's excelled in his position, and we didn't try to move him. We didn't try to shoehorn him in at 13. We didn't try to make him a centre, which
we did pap him to fullback a couple of times.
I think that was more of a failure of recruitment than anything else. But a absolutely brilliant player. I think we'll get a wee comment here. So Roderick Mackay, great servant at Scottish Rugby. Best wishes for his future endeavour. I think that kind of sums it up really well. And I think it was the Pen on Twitter earlier on said that he goes into his future career as one of the guys who he was involved in the resurgence of Scottish Rugby. He was one of the guys who was at the forefront of making Scottish Rugby not a laughing stock anymore. So I think he should take that into his retirement with him. And very, 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 very happy to see him go on and do great things. Maybe he'll be back as a slightly strange accented managing director at some point.
Yeah, we can use him as like a North American welfare officer, like Benetega does.
Absolutely. Maybe this has all been a grand plan, and that's I think it's a grand plan that SRU have put in place, that we've been setting him up for this role. This is a fair, we're obviously front loading the Glasgow chat just now, so we don't have to touch on them later on. But I mean, DTH and Tommy, we were talking about this earlier, actually, Ian, as well. It's really interesting that Glasgow's 2 top scoring wings neither of them have had been able to have a send off for the fans.
Yeah, I mean, after DTH retired, he left. His contract run out. I think is he playing in America now?
He's away getting a pension in America.
Yeah, I'd assumed he'd retired, but then he went off to America. And I'd suggested, during the start of the pandemic, that we should do some kind of tribute to DTH. But now, it's, a year later, we still can't go to the bloody stadium. Yeah, but I think the club will recognise exactly what these guys have done. And as you were saying, he's part of the resurgence in a Scotland team who could attack and actually score tries. And it's one of his, great finisher as well. I mean, you think about all the attributes I'd noted, but one thing as well, wonderful finisher.
Yeah.
So many great moments he's had.
My favourite Tommy Seymour moment of all time is when he ran into the hedge at one of the Italian clubs after scoring another try against. He used to score 2 or 3 a game against them, and one of them he kind of overshot his landing slightly and ran into a hedge, which was quite good. Not unflustered, of course, kind of shook it off, and like Taylor Swift, he just shook it off and got back on with it.
You get that much swab about him.
It was very cool. Yeah, I mean, and I know you obviously have an affinity with him, given that you don't like chicken, and you do an impersonation of him. Like most people, you do an impersonation of, but obviously this is a physical characteristics one. Ian.
Yeah, except I'm fat, but out of shape. But no,
out of training.
Yeah, unconditioned. I've been rotated on the bench too many times. That's a problem.
You were lost. You were a squad player who was lost.
Water
boy. So that is Tommy Seymour. We are all very sorry to see him go, but wish him well. And again, I think probably the last point in this is Tommy Seymour, around the time of the Lions 2017, had offers to go elsewhere. And he indicated that he stayed in Scotland because he was being well looked after in terms of game management. He was having his welfare looked after, and he's always been maybe the poster boy for that. So I think I think there's something there for the SRU to use that a wee bit more. A guy who retires, he's had a couple of concussions. Hopefully he's in relatively good health just now and can retire and go on to do what he wants to do now.
Which is hopefully starting a craft brewery, which gets sold at Scotland. Absolutely,
this was the plan earlier on our super secret Patreon page, which actually wonderfully segue. Obviously, I don't host every week, so I forget the wee bits that we do. I should remember these things, don't I? But as you'll see down in the banner below, you can pay for this if you so desire. I mean, your choice. In seriousness, you can jump onto patreon.com and pardon me, sorry. You can pay £3 a month, which is the cost of, I don't know how much is a pint actually. The pubs are open now, so how much is a pint?
Probably about £86. There's a shortfall to make up for all the months lost.
Okay, so
unless you go to Wetherspoons, probably about £4 a pint just for a pint of tenants at Glasgow City Centre these days, isn't you?
Easy £4.
But let's say being a hipster, I'm not
exactly. Aye. Well, let's say a pint is now £300, right? So for 1/100th of a pint, you can get yourself into the Richie Vernon Thunderdome, which is our part of our Patreon group. You get super secret exclusive content, including a series we're doing just now, Scotland's Hardest Player. We released last week or the week before. We released the 2010s to the current day, which took longer than we thought it might, It was quite surprising because we were a bit sceptical as to how hard players are these days. But the Mish was there. There was a few others creeping in. So, and obviously, you know the Mish.
Mish, Finn, Emma Wassell, Rachel Malcolm. Was there a fifth? I thought it was just those four.
It might have just been those four. But
Did we not put Gordon Reid in?
we didn't put Gordon. He didn't even get a mention.
We've screwed up. We're going to have to re-record that.
Have to re-record it. Well, to be fair, if you want, sign up to Patreon and come along, give it a listen, and then give us feedback on it and tell us if we've missed some of the hardest players. For £5 a month, I should say for £3 a month, you will get get all the access to our super secret Facebook page, which has brought us onto this. For £5 a month, you get everything that you've got, but you also get access to the Dougie Donnelly Members Lounge, which gets you your name read out on the podcast. Now, we have had no new entrants to the Dougie Donnelly recently.
Oh, have you seen the comment section just there, John?
I have not.
Malcolm McD.
Malcolm McD going to Patreon to join, lads. See, right, Malcolm, that we have got a blood pact here, mate. You go and do that now, and you'll get your name read out in the next podcast with lights. Should also add, you can pay more than £5 a month. We're not saying you should, though, because frankly, come on, it's about value, guys.
I mean, you'll keep me in flagons of cider and Haribo, so.
Which is what every man needs. So, but yeah, on the super secret Facebook page, we were debating Tommy Seymour's future career, and the craft beer thing came up, and there was quite a lot of chat about how, obviously, Rory Jackson and Ryan Grant went off to do their In a Shed gin, or whatever it's called, which seems to, it's not really, has that been picked up by the SRU yet?
I think they advertised it a couple of times, but I'm not a gin drinker. It seems a bit trendy for me. I'm a Jake.
Even for you, Ian. Even for a hipster like you. So
yeah. That's because I'm so hipster I don't drink gin. I'm like,
I'm going to use it. We've not used this in a while. It's like hipsterception.
There you go again.
I've not used it in a while, but there we are. So yeah, get yourself along, join Patreon. You will keep the podcast running because it costs a wee bit of money for us to do this via the live platform.
If you are a patron, you get to skip all this pish that we talk and just get to the rugby stuff. Cammy edits it.
I'm editing it tonight, which is quite scary.
God.
So Malcolm McD, you might be the first owner of a patented John Anderson edit.
A 4-hour-long Patreon edit. The Anderson cut. the Justice League Anderson cut.
Featuring all my favourite Tommy Seymour tries. Yeah, so if you want the Anderson cut, go to patreon.com and Scottish Rugby Podcast. So let's crack on with some more news. Get back to rugby because it'll make it easier for me to edit this. So Scotland have announced their plans for the summer. Woo! Now, this is obviously presuming that we can tour and other people can tour, namely some large carnivorous felines. We're assuming they can tour too. But Scotland have announced that they are going back under the banner of Scotland A, and they will play 3 matches, and head coach will be Mike Blair. He will be assisted by none other than the meteoric rise of Peter Murchie continues.
The merchandise Peter Murchie, yeah. Ayrshire Bulls Super 6 head coach of late, and then he joined Glasgow. So he will be. He's going to be the defence coach, isn't he?
Yeah. Which. Okay. I mean, Murchie's defence was. I mean, it was more solid than Hogg's.
I was going to
Which-
say, yeah.
It's like saying, O.J. Simpson's defence was more solid than Hogg's.
We need Johnny Cochran.
That's it. If anybody's got Johnny's number, give him a shout. We'll get him hired.
There's a small problem with that. He's not alive anymore.
That's true. Yeah,
He
good
died
point.
a few
Yeah,
years ago.
he did actually. Yeah, it shows how up to date with
Probably.
modern chats I am.
He's, you need to use the. You ever see that episode of South Park, Chef Aid, where Johnny Cochran uses the Chewbacca defense?
Yeah, that's right.
We need the Chewbacca defense.
That's it. First we got Steve Tandy involved, then we got the Chewbacca defense. I mean, what more do we need? So yeah, two of the opponents have been named. We're going to be playing Romania and Georgia. There is indication of what was the exact phrase that was used? Expectation that a number of Scots will be touring with the British and Irish Lions, which fills all of us with, hope that there might be more than 3 Lions.
Yeah, but 0 is also a number.
Yeah, actually, what they're doing is they didn't tell us at the start, but the 36-man squad is actually going to be on a job share basis, and that they're going to be hiring 0.5 Scots.
Well, they're already counting Tandy and Townsend.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm quite bemused by this whole concept of the A fixture, because it's not going to be a first string squad, because of the condensed nature of this broken up last sort of season and a half as it has been. The players have played quite a lot, and we simply don't have the manpower, I don't think, to have an A squad as well as a proper squad, which is already going to be bereft of hopefully maybe 5 or 6 players who are on Lions duty, and then a couple of guys getting a rest.
Do you think it's maybe the and actually there's a comment coming in, we'll just touch on this in a second, but you think it's maybe, so you remember a few years ago we had the North American tour, and it was the young guns who went, and they gave a lot of players a rest in preparation for the World Cup the following year.
Yeah.
Do you think there's maybe an argument that what they're doing is exactly the same, but this time they're just going to say, you know what, let's just badge it as an A game. Let's not bother with let's not even bother with full internationals this time round, and just get the A guys the game.
So, do you know what I think it might be is, right, because the Sevens series has been screwed, and that's been our capture sort of team, or the under-20s actually has been the capture
Under-20s our capture team. Yep.
So
you capture at Sevens. I think Sevens is completely fine. You capture it Sevens.
So obviously with those being put on the back burner, might see a couple of surprise calls in there. I've seen some names coming in there from Bouncing Balls of Fire.
Yep.
See someone like guys like Dobie and McLean, right? I think they'll eventually be capped. They've been in the extended training squads with the full team before, but Fraser Dingwall, a name that's come up there, and also Josh Bayliss. This would be a time. This would be a time to capture them, just so that they can't then go off to England, for example.
And speaking of heading off to England, we've also Dougie Lowe has suggested the like of Ashman,
another name,
who has been Eddie Jones has been flirting his eyelashes longingly towards Ashman.
Yeah, but he does that to a lot of people. He's a wee cap teaser, that Eddie Jones. I think
wee cap tease. That's the title of the podcast there.
What I think would also be good with this tour would be to give Rory Hutchinson a proper run out, because I didn't see the game at the weekend, but apparently he's been tearing it up. I've seen him playing a few times with Northampton, and damn, he does look a really fine player.
He always a decent player, doesn't he?
So yeah, I think this would, if he gets the chance to sort of, if you'd imagine he'd be playing 12 as the second distributor, kind of role that we tend to use at 12.
Yep.
And if he can really shine against Romania and Georgia, who aren't, they're not. We should be wiping the floor with them, but we said that when we went to North America a couple of years ago, didn't we?
That's the other thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Um,
If you're putting out a group of young forwards, there's no better test. And you know fine well that a team, particularly Georgia, they are always looking to get that scalp. So if you go over there, you're going to get a big test for those forwards, and there's a reason that England were using Georgia as their kind of scrum practice a few years back in between games. They're a quality outfit when it comes to that side of the game. Maybe not tier 1 quality, but they're still a quality outfit. So give the young lads a run at them and see, you find out a lot about a player in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, to paraphrase Jim Hamilton's favourite word, physicality. You're really gonna get tested physically against those guys. And if you can take getting smashed off a 18 stone Georgian and get back up and play a good game and win it, then maybe you've got the medal.
I think there's a lot to be said for so not everyone can have the Cameron Redpath debut. Not everybody can turn up and make their debut in a Calcutta Cup and look manner born, and their first touch is a 40-yard touch finder that takes a lovely bounce and
off your wrong peg.
Half your rank peg, exactly. So players do need to cut their teeth somewhere. And I always think back to the example I always give with people talking about players making their debut. Hugh Jones made his debut in that tour to Japan before the World Cup, and he came on as a substitute. And he done very little other than he won an amazing turnover on our line, which I don't know if that was indicative of, it seemed to suggest he was some sort of Dunbar style centre. Maybe he was kidding on, he was a 12 at that point. And then all of a sudden he starts tearing up trees. So players do cut their teeth at different levels, and I think it'd be really good to see some of these young guys get a run out. Guys like Dobby in particular, everyone's really excited about what he can bring. But yeah, some of the younger forwards, even just some of the forwards that are not maybe getting game time, and mix that in with a bit of experience.
Yeah, one of the names that was mentioned there, Luke Crosby. And this, we'll segue this nicely into the Edinburgh game, shall we?
Segue, yes. Well, let's. Will we segue? Because we've got two more bits of news. Then we'll segue, right?
All right. Okay.
And I'm going to patent segue. I like it. Right. So after our chat last week, Scottish Rugby have announced some funding for the clubs. That's right. The 15 million has been kind of partially found, and 1.5 million has been earmarked for immediate club recovery needs and a safe, sustainable return to rugby, and a further 5 million will be thrown towards a growth and participation programme over the coming 5 years. Which, right, so I'm an analyst in my day job, and as part of that, I have to do sums on a computer, as my daughter told me. That was my job description, doing sums on a computer. Last time I checked, 15 million wasn't 6.5 million.
Calculator, that's what you.
So yeah, I'm just a really, really rubbish calculator.
Calculator with human flaws built in.
Yeah. So speaking of human flaws, 6.5 million is not 15 million, which is the money that was mentioned. As we've said last week, if you want to refer back to last week's podcast for in-depth analysis of where the 15 million may have went. Strange one, but not unexpected.
No, because we'd never know what the exec board are doing. I think after they announced that it's, the part of the press release says, "Oh yeah, it was unanimously decided this should be passed." It's like, did you ask any of the clubs? Did you get any input from the clubs? Don't think so. I'm not one of these guys who just deliberately wants to go and piss on the SRU's chips, right? I want them to be doing their job properly, and I even stuff like Super Six, a lot of people instantly dreaded that. I mean, it's not been given a fair go yet because of the interruption to the season, what have you. I mean, conceptually it might work, and I don't think we should just immediately douse the fire out without giving it a go. But there is always seems to be just this constant fighting between the executive board and the clubs. Ian Barr seems to be a good kind of what do you call it? Almost like like the Bifrost and Thor. I think he'll be a good connect to try and alleviate that. But it's all going to take time.
It will. But I think it's good to see clubs getting support, and let's not sniff at that amount of money. It's a significant amount of money. But
actually, I mean, one of the things you were saying last week about, why this amount of money they're talking about going to grassroots, they haven't specified if any of it is going to go into increasing or improving the women's game.
Correct.
Which we think is a potential. Well, it's a potential for improvement for the team itself.
Yep.
And also, in terms, it's a market, man. It's a market you can tap into. But we know people like our good friend Alan McDonald.
Yep.
His daughter, he took her to Scotstoun, and she's like, I want to be Hannah Smith or I want to be Emma Wassell. She doesn't want to be Tommy Seymour because Tommy Seymour's not a woman.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
Not yet. Anyway, maybe that's why he's retiring.
Is that today's?
That's Sanders slander. Yep. Tommy Seymour's getting a sex change and joining the women's team.
I don't have the thing ready. Right, here we go.
Slander.
If you can't see it, you can't be it, right? And so there needs to be an improvement in that because it's a market. It was on proper BBC the other day. I don't know what the viewing figures were.
Should we
cash in, man? Cash in.
Exactly. Should we segue into the women's game actually just now and talk about the Wales match?
Have you finished the news, or have I ruined that again?
You've kind of ruined it again, but
I'm really bad at that. Sorry, but
right. Final bit of news: the Six Nations the fixtures have been announced for 2022. We are starting against our favourite in the back of the pocket. I mean, it's an easy 5 points, really. Starting against England.
Keep that cup for the fourth time in 5 years.
Exactly. Yeah. But is it like the Rugby World Cup, or is it like the Football World Cup? Sorry, where like if we win it enough times, we get to keep it.
I think that was only the Jules Rimet because they were getting rid of it. because the dog that found it had built it into bits.
Yeah. Well, I think they should make a new.
John, have you got coronavirus?
No, I've got I've got a very bad cough.
That's you and Cammy. I'm the only person in moderately decent health, and I'm the worst out of the lot of us. Jesus.
It's true, yeah. You are the least fit out of all of us as well, which goes to show that.
Define fit, mate.
Oh, Tommy Seymour would have something to say about that. Yeah, basically, exercise is bad for you, I think, is what we're saying here. That is not a public health message. You don't come here for your public health advice. Let's be honest. So let's do Scotland are so we're at England first at BT Murrayfield 5th of February. We're then off to Cardiff on Saturday the 12th. We are then at France and off to Rome, and then we're home at France, sorry, and then we've got Italy in Rome, and then we are off to Dublin on the 19th of March for Super Saturday, with Scotland seeking their first win in Ireland since that famous day where Daniel of the House Parks hoofed a beautiful pen. We should have humped them that day, just as an aside. We are well better than them.
Actually, I missed that game. I was away somewhere. I think I was on holiday. But I got a message off of our mutual friend Andy, just saying like, I love. Well, there was a sweary word in it, but it expressed a lot of love for Dan Parks. Well, interestingly though, the Ireland game will be just after St Patrick's Day.
Yes.
So if you are going to, if you are intending on going to Dublin or Ireland for that game, yeah, expect a primo rate on your hotel.
Yes.
Make it a
And
day trip, by the way.
make it, exactly. Get the ferry over.
Like
I
Dublin's
suppose
cheap anyway.
no, it's brutal, isn't it? It's really expensive. I suppose we should probably say a big congratulations to Andy at this point as well. So
Yep.
since he's popped up in conversation, so
Yep.
you can do the honour, scene.
Our boy Andy. Andy is a friend of John's from back in Butte, and he's I've known him for like 15 years now. I used to work with him. And me and him have been Scotstoun seat buddies for the last 7 or 8 seasons. And him and his lovely wife Jude had a child on Sunday morning. So Jessica Alison McRae is welcomed into the world. So hello, Jessica, and congratulations to Andy and Jude.
Future Scotland 10 for the women's team, we would think. So
I don't know, man. Andy was a number 8, wasn't he? So I think he'll probably get her.
Encourage a wee
bit early.
That's it.
A new Jade Conkle.
So that's the news. So we segue into now. Finally, Ian, you've got the women's game. So Scotland finished their truncated Six Nations campaign with a win against Wales. A very exciting match as well.
Yeah, it was a pretty good game. I've watched most of it again. Obviously, I was watching it live and I've done the match report. I'd say morale boosting. I mean, let's be fair. Like Wales and Scotland are the weakest 2 teams in the tournament, but there's not a lot of Scotland players who are fully professional, and even one of them, Rhoda Lloyd, has not been able to take part in the tournament. But no, got the job done once again. Emma Wassell was excellent in the line out. Did you see Maggie Alfonsi's team in the tournament at all?
I did actually. I saw that earlier on today. Very, very. I was very pleased, obviously, to see that.
Fair, Helen Nelson's a really good player. I think one of the problems with Scotland is because of the lack of depth, we keep asking players to shift around. I would really I think if we can keep Nelson at 10, Lisa Thompson at 12, and Hannah, Nelson at 10, Thompson at 12, and Hannah Smith at 13 is a really good triumvirate. I think they complement each other very well. But then sometimes you're asking Nelson to push out to 12, then Thompson out to 13 with Hannah Smith was away training with 7s, as happened against Italy. It really weakens the side. And you could see there was a lack of structure against Italy, especially. But no, there's passages of really good play. Need to give a big shout out to Christine Belial of Cartha Queen's Park, who are not too far down the road from me.
That's right.
She's been asked to play pretty much everywhere. She started at tight head in the first game. Put on the bench for the Italy game because Megan Kennedy was coming back, because Megan Kennedy is a very, very good player. But Bella again has come in and started to get at loose head this time. It's I think Brian Easton said a couple of weeks ago, she's like, oh, where's Christine going to be playing? Because she was marked down as number 19 on the squad. It's like, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 or 13. And she seems to be one of these versatile players who can do everything, which I think is particularly impressive for somebody who is playing for an amateur side to then be able to step up to international level and just do a job and then make it into the team of the tournament as picked by a World Cup winning player. I think is a remarkable achievement for Christine. And she does look a very good player, gets about her business, gets stuck in.
She's a great example of so no disrespect to amateur players, which we think a lot. And amateur players, there can be some very, very talented amateur players out there, but she's a really good example of where heart and kind of commitment really kind of outweighs a lot of the professionalism that she's coming up against. I thought she had a very, very good game, and it is interesting to see. You get players like that. You see players like that are just ball players. They'll just fit in anywhere and they'll do a job for you. And I think it's something we're maybe lacking in the professional game. We specialise players so much that we end up with these situations where we talk about kind of hookers that play back row, and there's kind of a few moves that can be made. But when I always get really annoyed when we start to talk about let's move a 13 to 12, things like that. And yes, it's a different position, but surely there's enough of a crossover, surely.
Yeah, pass. Pass and run.
Catch, pass. And I know the defensive systems are different, and that's a thing. But then surely, so defensive systems are only as good as there's a man in front of you, you need to smash him. That's kind of what it comes down to. So surely, there must be some crossover there.
Well, I don't know. I ain't playing at that level. But no, I think it was. Considering the last time I saw Scotland play Wales was at Scotland, and we get scrummed right after Park. To win that game, I think we should have won by more, to be honest. Wales have got one standout performer in Jasmine Joyce. Is it Lisa Newman that was playing on the wing? She was a cracking player as well. But I think if we fund it properly, there are some very, very talented players. A lot of the time, Scotland, I just thought it looked a wee bit disjointed in attack, especially when you're asking, particularly the Italy game where Tom's got shifted out to 13. I know you're just saying there about how it should be interchangeable. Her job is she's quite good at smacking people. She's quite a sort of quiet, wee shy person when you hear her talking in interviews and stuff. But she can be quite brutal on the pitch. So you want that kind of nastiness at 12 to, if someone tries to run down that channel between her and Nelson, just drop them back.
Aye.
I think there is potential, but we need more numbers because there are times when players don't look up to it. But then with as well as Christine Belial, I think Evie Gallagher, who made her debut during the tournament, she was, for me, against Italy, she was one of the best players on the park against Italy. And this is a girl that's come from, I think Brian said she'd played basketball and she was a good athlete. I think she did track and field of some kind in her younger days. And now she came in and then just started battering folk. She was hitting she was hitting breakdowns, and when you're making tackles, you see a couple of times, you're like, oh man, that's a good hit. Who did that? And it was Evie Gallagher, and then straight back up into the ruck. That's a player. There's a lot of good player in that, and if she gets proper coaching, I think she's only 21, 22. She could be excellent. And same as Emma Wassell, who we believe is. I know she's been offered she said she's been offered a contract with Loughborough Lightning, and so every time I write a women's match report, her name is always in the mix for player of the match, because she's excellent at what she does. She's an excellent lock. She's played 46 games in a row for Scotland, for Christ's sake. That's ridiculous. Seen for a tight 5 player to consistently be picked that often, and consistently be one of the best players on the park. That's a very talented player. I don't know if she's going to have to take a pay cut. She's a qualified chartered accountant, but a hell of a good rugby player.
Time to go back to that. That's the thing. Pop that on hold for a few years and head off and play a wee bit of rugby. But it does bring us back. You make the point regarding coaching. And it brings us back inevitably to the idea that how much funding does the women's game need? And both of us, we've been very vocal on this podcast. I'm not going to woke clacks in it because it doesn't need to be. The women's game needs to be funded better, and we've made we made some very, very sound arguments as to why that is. But you do got to wonder, there's very talented rugby players out there who are not getting to reach their full potential just now. I would even go as far as to say someone Jade Conkle is an amazing rugby player, but if she had been if she'd been given the same level of coaching that a male player gets from a really, really young age, how basically the comparison is, look at the English girls who are coming through the system. They are going into professionalism really, really young. They are getting strength and conditioning. They're getting the full access to the RFU's infinite finances that aren't actually infinite. They're completely broke. And they're churning out world-class rugby players. And we are in a situation where we are almost haphazardly finding really good rugby players, and then they're having to go to England to become professionals, or having to go to France and become professionals. And I just think it's not good enough. And we can argue finances till the cows come home, but there's money there for professional rugby players in Scotland, and we need to be doing more with that.
Yeah, I think even if you look at Super 6, right? So the Super 6 average wage is, I think the Super 6 wage is about 12.5 grand a year.
Yep.
Right. I don't know if I should name call him on this because of stuff he has going on.
Redacted.
Somebody I know who's playing professionally in Eastern Europe, he's getting paid more in Eastern Europe than he would be at Super 6.
Yep.
So these people are having to look elsewhere to play their rugby.
Yep.
And if they're not even going to give some of those people a go at Super 6,
yep.
If you can't even pay someone 12.5 grand a year, which is, I think I worked out. I mean, that's, even if you take out the bonuses, that's 20 Mark Dodsons. Yeah, there's a lot of scope for growth, shall we say?
Yep.
But it's all about getting people. We need to get people. We get people to give turnstiles at Scotland, for the women's games.
Yep.
I think the last time Scotland played there, it was 2,000 people.
Yeah,
which is more than you. Sorry, if this is not meant to be a dig at Edinburgh, but
yes, go on, Ian, son.
See when Edinburgh were playing at Manscaped a couple of years ago. I think they were getting 400 people when they had that short spell at Manscaped. They were getting about 400 people through the door.
There wasn't many turning up,
and that's pish.
We're going to have a dig at Edinburgh there because we know fine well that we're going to have to touch on something very, very traumatic regarding Glasgow quite soon. I'm going to put this comment up. I think you're looking at it as well, Ian.
Yeah.
So we've got, have you talked about a fantasy British and Irish women's squad out the 2021 Women's Six Nations? And, it's a really interesting, it's maybe something we can consider for a future episode, actually. It's a really, really good idea. And certainly I think, you've got every pundit going tends to pull out their own fantasy squad or the team of the tournament and stuff like that. I think it would be really interesting to kind of particularly concentrating on the Scotland players who could be in the reckoning. I think that the difficulty lies in it's not an even playing field, and it's back to what we're saying about finance. English women are professional. The Scottish women, for the majority of them, are not, and it does make if you've ever played in a team in the amateur game and you're quite far down the divisions and you get drawn in the cup against somebody who is slightly further up the divisions than you, fine well it doesn't look good for you. You don't look like you're playing the same sport. So, not to say that that's the case for the women's game, but it's it's harder to gauge. So, but certainly, I think it's a really good idea. We'll bandy that about once the Overlord is kicking about.
Yeah, it would be. To quickly answer that question, it would primarily be filled with English players, because they are the best team in the world.
Shall we go hardcore and quota it though?
No.
No,
because you're not picking on merit. But there's the. But like we were saying about Maggie Alfonsi's team, she's actually, I disagreed with a couple of her choices, but the likes of Wassell, Smith, Hannah Smith. I think Hannah Smith is excellent, but then Hannah Smith would be challenging Emily Scarrett for a shot. And Emily Scarrett, the best player in the world
by quite a margin as well. Like you're not even close.
Really good player. The first time I saw her, like 4 years ago, like she did everything. I think she was even playing 10 that game, which is like, she could just cover every role.
She just again, it's back to that. She is an absolute ball player. She does everything. Yeah, phenomenal talent.
I think she's better than Portia Woodman.
Yeah.
I think Woodman's excellent what she does, but I think Scarrett has a better all-round skill set.
I would agree.
And it's like, right, my knowledge of the women's game isn't brilliant, because I don't have a lot of exposure to it. But from the bits I've seen, there's these players who catch your eye. The Cleo twins, Poppy Cleo is ridiculously good as well, man. She's like Joe Launchbury in women form, but then also with a wee bit of Louis Peekamo. So this is a wonderful rugby player.
That is a beautiful analogy, a beautiful kind of Frankenstein monster that you would create. Joe Launchbury and Peekamo. Oh.
It's the worst forward in the world. It's like, how do you stop it? Oh wait, I've tackled her low. Oh wait, she's ran through me. I've tackled her high. Oh, she's offloaded. You're done.
There's no stopping the launch mole. There is no stopping it. So again, what you're saying there, Ian, is really interesting. I'm much the same. I watch the women's game when I can, but it's one of those ones that, had it been on a mainstream channel, for example, on BBC properly, then
instead of chasing the bargain hunt down the country to Australia House or whatever it was,
then we might have had more exposure. So I just think that everyone needs to come together to make this happen. We need more exposure to the women's game, and who knows? We'll maybe have some new Scottish rugby heroes to talk about in due course. Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, they beat Wales. It was pure good. Well done, guys. Very, very impressed. So, kind of right. I'm going to do it right. Shall we go on to this? That's right. That is Cammie's beautiful jingle for the Rainbow Cup. I don't have my wristband on today. I feel a bit sad. I've got some covered. Might go and dig them out. So there was, both Scottish teams were involved in action at the weekend. Glasgow played a game and there was some stuff and there was a result and we're not going to talk about it. The Edinburgh game, on the other hand, was Edinburgh, very. I'm going to choose my words carefully here because, those in glass houses and all that. It was a professional performance by a bunch of young guys. I was commenting actually. I was watching the game with a friend, and we were laughing at how young the Edinburgh players all looked. It was a very interesting team. We were watching it online and having a good laugh. So Edinburgh won 24-18. At times they made it look more difficult than it should have been.
They had an average age of 24 and a half throughout the squad. So I mean, it was a close game, but it wasn't a particularly exciting game. I didn't think. I thought Ronnie Sow was very good. Took his try
Very
well.
good.
Yep.
Physical.
And also, all right, Jim Hamilton, Camden. But
Physicality.
if you want to talk physicality, whatever it was that Luke Crosby took at halftime, Christ, get that!
Let's have some of that.
Brilliant! He was superb in the second half. I mean, this is a guy who, we've talked about him for a couple of years, and we're still waiting. I think I'm up to over 50 games now for Edinburgh. Or that was his 50th game. So he was captain in the sides, and second half, real captain's performance. I like him. It's just the fact that the poor sods get Hamish Watson, and then when Hamish Watson's getting a rest, who are we going to put in? What about this Jamie Ritchie boy? We'll put him in. So it's a tough shift for the boy. But no, he looks like a player. He links up well. He tackles hard. He does he does the sevens job of getting him in amongst it at the breakdown. And I thought he was outstanding in the second half and drove his team to victory. I think I'd like to see more of him playing at club level. I reckon he'll be in the A squad, if not the full international squad.
He should be there or thereabouts for sure. And I think he's he was captain, as you say, he was captain in the side. And I think we've always commented actually on his, particularly when Edinburgh's internationals are away, he seems to be a guy who kind of does drive some of the standards there, which is, you need that. You need those good club players, and not everybody's going to be Hamish Watson. And there's no shame in that.
Who is? although
Kenny is.
For those of you who don't follow me on Twitter or anything, I've actually discovered that Hamish Watson is moonlighting as a Canadian wrestler called Kenny Omega, who is regarded as the greatest wrestler in the world. And I think, although I get classified as the wrestling expert here, I don't really watch a lot of wrestling. But something came up on my Facebook timeline. I was like, all right, I'll watch this match because someone said that, it's the best tag team match of all time. And I watched it, and it was incredible. I mean, this guy's just an amazing athlete, just running about all over the shop. And he looks like Hamish Watson. So
did he pinball anyone?
No, he did. Have you seen his finishing move?
No.
It's called the one-winged angel. It's brutal looking. It's like, man, you should do that to Owen Farrell through a table off the top of the ladder.
So what you're saying is we need to get footage of that, and we will Photoshop Owen Farrell's face on whoever he's doing it to.
Yeah, I think if the TMO reviewed it, it would be classified as going above the horizontal.
Would Ben Skeen want to check that?
Oh, cheek, mate. Oh, there's no mitigating factors. No mitigating factors.
Under the guidelines, we're going to red card. So Edinburgh, I'm going to give credit where credit's due. I thought some of their senior players,
the ones who are 26.
Aye, the ones that are out of nappies. What was with Blair Kinghorn's attempt to? He clearly got ID'd in the shop before going to the game or something, didn't he? He got ID'd for his bottle of Mad Dog and was like, "I'm going to grow a wee tashi and a wee beard," and no get ID'd anywhere. Challenge 25. I'll show you, mate.
But if he was in a shop, he'd be wearing a mask.
True. Maybe he's got an exemption.
I get really offended when I don't get asked for ID anymore.
I've not been asked for ID for a few years, mate.
I did 2 years ago, and and I showed the one with my ID, and she was like, "Really?" I was like, "Aye." She's like,
"Oh, I did actually."
My son's younger than you, and
I had a guy turn up at the door earlier on. So you know how you get out. So you know how if you order stuff on Amazon,
I feel like
they'll ID you. Aye, well, it wasn't ordering a blade, but aye, if you get a blade,
I got a blade. I got a kitchen knife from my birthday.
right. So there was a good deal on beer on Amazon. I thought I'll pick up a wee case, and I got ID'd, and the guy looked at my driver's license, and he took the he took the date of issue down. He was like, so like 2013. What? Like, mate, hey, come on. Come on. So we got it sorted.
Years ago, I went to I was visiting my mate in London, and it was my old driver's license photo. So it was like I got when I was 17, I grew a goatee beard so I could get served in pubs and in park.
Everyone aged 17 should grow a goatee beard. If there's anyone 17 listening to this, grow a goatee.
If you can, yeah, do it. You get served everywhere. I made this big South African bouncer was like, that's not you, mate. I was like, it is. I was like, I'm like, of course it is. He's like, nah, it's not you. I was like, look, man, look at the address. Listen to my voice. Right, that's me. I've got other things with my name on it. That's me. That's not you, mate. I was like, it is me. I know who I am.
I know. I'm not having an existential crisis here. I know who I am.
I felt like Arnie in the Sixth Day or something.
So Blair Kinghorn's beard is something to behold. Good man. Yeah, he looks like a prepubescent trying to get into a pub.
He had one of his typical good
Kinghorn games.
Yeah, it's like good pass for the South try. You've done well there. Nice line. Good pass. Then, oh, you've kicked it dead right on half time.
Aye, you've absolutely muppeted it. Aye.
He's so frustrating because he can be such a lethal runner from deep. And then balls is the basics basically.
He's got all the talent in the world, and he's just frustrating. You're absolutely right.
But again, I think this is I think it's a wee bit of psychological coaching. I think it's tension, maybe. And maybe because you keep bad mouthing him. I
was going to say maybe he is a big fan of me.
Blair, we love you. Please.
He just wants me to approve. Look, Blair, like it's okay. It's okay. I approve.
Stop trying to show off to John at school.
It's all right, mate. Like, you don't have to show off to me. I look like Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's fine, mate. You don't have to show off to me. So I thought Chamberlain was quite good as well. I thought he had a good shift. Some very, very nice kicking game. Does it again? I still struggle to see, like, and it's one of the concerns I've got with Duncan Weir coming back to Glasgow as well, and we'll get on to that mob in a second. I think it's hard when you see a 10 that can't distribute, and Chamberlain, he's got there's like some of it's creeping in. You're starting to see him pass the ball a wee bit, but he's still very tense and not moving the ball quite as much as you want to see. But maybe that's a game plan.
Yeah, it could be down to the Cockers way, because we know that Edinburgh they've relied on their set piece to get them field position, and then wait on the likes of Darcy or in particular Duhan van der Monster to finish things off just by ploughing through folk. But a couple of years ago, when they were at their peak, because they had they had Duhan playing well, they had Darcy playing well, they had Blair Kinghorn playing well, they had Yako playing well, but obviously they've been shorn of them for international duty. A lot of time they look unstructured. Tell you what though, Matt Curry, he had a very good debut.
Very, very good game.
Oh, sorry, I think it was his first start. Yeah, I thought he played very well. So fair props to him and that. But it's the same with Glasgow. Sometimes it just looks a bit disorganised as they're moving through back moves, people overrunning stuff, getting in the way or whatever,
So we'll maybe talk about another person called Curry later on, once we get to Hanson Ruck. But I suppose like, I don't really want to do this, and I don't have any mournful music, and I'm kind of half tempted just to put up like Batman, and we could just talk over Batman. But Glasgow in the Rainbow Cup, Glasgow were up against Benetton, who were, I believe, 15 losses out of their last. I believe they got a draw in one game. But they hadn't won in 15.
Winless
Ah.
in the standard season.
In the
Well, we say standard season. Yeah.
Let's call it the regular season to be pure American. Then we'll get a sponsorship once.
But even then, that wasn't regular. It was.
No. Once the Americans take over the Pro 14, we'll get a wee kickback. The
Major League Pro 14 rugby.
Regular season Pro 14. Basically, Glasgow proceeded to take a bunch of guys who had been pumped in every game and absolutely and utterly plat the bed all over the place. I've not got a bleep, so don't swear, Ian, because I don't know how to edit a bleep yet. I'm still learning, but it was utter kite, wasn't it?
It was like that Italy game we got done. When was it? Was that 2006?
When we done the 3 intercepts?
Yeah.
2007.
I believe you refer to it as the Godman game.
it was Phil's greatest. It was his greatest hits.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's just like you can't. As I've said before, this right. When I've looked at the stats on the Pro 14 stats, Glasgow attacking wise were nearish the top in terms of stuff like defenders beaten, line breaks, meters made, all these kind of things. Can't score for toffee, and then shoot our own everything off. Feet, knees, arms, just give tries away. Like started all right. We, I think there was, a minute and a half. I think we had possession for a good few phases. And I'm thinking, all right, man, this look good, all right? Warriors, nice. All right, take it into contact well, getting through the first defender, nice. Oh, and we go, oh no, we've lost it. Oh, this Montigiani way. Oh no. And then oh no, there's Nick Cannoni. Oh, for Christ's sake. And it did it every single bloody time Glasgow got possession. It's like, what are you going to screw up now? Sam Johnson, like, everyone knows I'm a big Sam Johnson fan. He was honking.
He had a very poor game.
Absolutely honking. Tried this pointless grubber, which led to the Ioane first try. And everything defensively just like a shambles. There wasn't. I didn't see a lot of effort in getting back into the line, apart from Fraser Brown. I thought Fraser Brown actually was all right at a push, but everyone crap, absolute rubbish. They get absolutely pumped. I mean, the scoreline should have been worse. It was just like the fact that there was 2 consolation tries.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, the final score was Benetton 46, Glasgow 19. Now Glasgow were, am I right in saying 39 down at one point?
Yeah, I think it was 43 or 46-7 at one point.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is that just shouldn't be happening, and I think there's a lot to be said for if that happened against Leinster, right? If that happened against a grade A Leinster side, you'd be going, that's a bit of a riddy. But I nearly said the F word there. But for Benetton to do that to us, that's just not on, man. That is completely not on. No, it's not. And I mean, we should be putting Benetton are in the same. They're in the same vein as
the Dragons.
The Dragons, the Southern Kings, as they were. It's teams that a team that is expecting, like, right, we know Glasgow in transition, but there's transition and then there's just an utter disgrace. And the problem I have with it, and I'm going to get into a wee bit of a rant. It's no my hands in the ruck, but it was close. People defending the coaching team. people defending the coaching team saying, "Oh, but COVID, and like, right, that's a team full of Scottish internationals. It's a team full of world-class players in that they have played at a world international stage. You've got British and Irish Lions available to you, and what you're turning out is utter dross. And there's no semblance of a game plan. There's no semblance of anything. Like I was speaking to a guy recently who was saying, the new signings Glasgow have got coming in next year are really exciting. But what are the coaching team going to do with them? I'm really, really, really concerned. Danny Wilson, I don't want it to become football where we fire managers willy-nilly. He has not done enough this season to deserve to keep his job. That's the facts of it. Let's have the Wilson day clock. It's like 3 milliseconds to midnight right now. He deserves to be fired. I'm sorry, but he does.
And I do feel really sorry for him. I mean,
he's come into a hard gig.
He did quite well at Cardiff. I mean, the thing is, right, at Cardiff, right, you had...
Did he not get fired, though?
No, he left. I think he
Did
left
he leave?
and joined... I think it was a mutual league. Did he not join Wasps as a defence coach? He didn't move to Die Young?
Aye, but he went to move to that, but then got off the Scotland gig and reneged on it.
Yeah.
And then came to us.
But he'd won the Challenge Cup with Cardiff, playing an exciting brand of rugby. So you'd think he'd be a decent fit for Glasgow, but then why does Scotland, employ him as a defence coach when that's clearly not his gig?
It's been pragmatism.
Defence or forwards?
He was forwards coach. Sorry,
forwards coach. Yeah, doesn't he seem his bag? He's, like you said, I don't want to just can him straight away.
No,
I mean, you look at like Alex Ferguson was like one game away from getting canned at Man United.
Yeah,
and then went on to have the most glorious reign of all football managers of all time.
Right.
But he when I speak to him at press conferences, he goes, right, well, this was problem here, this problem here. We got gobbed off XR, that was unacceptable. But we played well once I'd had the Scottish boys back for a few weeks before that, and we gave Scarlets a doing. I don't think that's the exact words. I'm paraphrasing, but we did give Scarlets a bit of doing, and it was a good Scarlets team, and we beat them fair and square. And there has been glimpses of decency, but it just seems like there is no semblance of organisation in defence.
No.
There is no... The captains who are meant to be driving standards... He goes on about Ryan Wilson driving standards in training, what have you. But see when it's on the pitch, I'm not seeing those standards being driven out of players. And it's like Fraser Brown as well. Like Fraser Brown's an experienced and good, intelligent, smart man. But he's not going to fire the fear of God into you like Al Kellock would.
No. And he doesn't lead by example in the park either, because he puts himself in positions. But we've all talked a lot about Fraser Brown, who inevitably will do at least one brain dead thing per game, which will cost you a penalty or hopefully not cost you anything too serious. But Fraser Brown has previous on this, and he's a very talented rugby player, and he should be way more savvy than that. And it's got worse. That's the thing. It's got worse this season.
He won a couple of big turnovers, but then the all-round display was a shambles. I think the only person who came out of that with any credit is once again Cole Forbes. All right, fair enough. Ioane handed him off, but the thing is, right, Monty Ioane was dynamite during Six Nations. A couple of years ago, I think he was, if not the top scorer, but one of the top scorers in the Pro 14. This guy's a grand finisher, right?
He's a good player.
If you're, he's not, maybe not as good as Doohan, but you can accept when a good player does you can accept it.
Yeah.
But the rest of the time, it was just powder puff defence, and it's been the same all season, just powder puff nonsense. And in particularly around about the halfway mark, bottle it. either side of halfway, last 5 minutes, last 5 minutes first half, first 5-10 minutes of the second half, we just completely lose any semblance of being a team and make an arse of it. And the only thing that occasionally saves us is moments of brilliance, like Rufus Mcqueen's try against the Dragons.
Yep.
I mean, that was a sensational try.
We've been relying on individual stuff for too
Yeah.
long. It's a team game. I'm just going to quickly, because I'm conscious of time, because we are fast approaching. So I'm going to flick through a couple of the comments that have come in regarding this. Right. So the very first point, 2007 at Murrayfield was my first time seeing a live game. 8-year-old me was traumatized forever. Do not watch. If you're a Warriors fan, don't watch the game at the weekend if you haven't seen it. You will probably need therapy for the rest of your life. Sam Marsh, is this the Sam we were twittering with earlier on?
I'm not sure actually.
Who knows? Who knows? If you are the Sam,
does.
Well, Sam does know. Yeah. If you are the Sam of Sam fame from Sam Twitter earlier on, please Sam us. Turn that shower of garbage off at halftime to drink cans in a park. I would highly recommend you don't go drink cans in a park just now. But fair enough. Dave McManus, it was worse than the 07 game. At least Scotland fought back a bit in that one. Yeah, Glasgow did not fight back. They looked absolutely and utterly out of it from quite early doors. And then to your point as well regarding Rufus Mcqueen, I think this is an interesting one because I think Rufus McQueen's a guy who's coming out of the Danny Wilson debacle with a lot of credit in that he's clearly a very talented rugby player. He's in a position that almost doesn't rely so much on that individual, on that kind of team dynamic. He doesn't have to worry so much about what Wilson's game plan is. He just has to get the ball and run really fast and tackle people. And I think he's looking the part. And I was commenting earlier on that, add a high ball game to Rufus Mcqueen, you've almost got a player that could be international level already.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the step and he's got the pace.
A bit of defence as well.
Excuse me, I had to get a wee frog out my throat there.
That's because of Tommy. It's okay. It's okay. We're all friends here. You talked about a step. You went, Tommy.
I'm just envisioning the gif of Arnie going into the melting pot in Terminator 2 whenever I talk about Tommy now. McLean has finishing ability without doubt. And stupid pace, absolutely ridiculous pace. But the problems are in the middle of the park, like you said, because not every try is. Actually, there's been very few tries scored out wide. A lot of time we're just getting smashed right through the middle. The Irish teams took massive advantage of that during the regular season, and then we get Nick Cannoni scoring 2 tries in a match. I don't even know if Nick Cannoni scored a try in his body life. and then he just walks through the Glasgow defence whenever he likes. I'm a lock. Whoa.
Hey, off we go.
Like a big rampant giraffe. It was really, really pish.
It was.
It's really upsetting. And then I've seen some people giving George Horn grief about his game management. Again, it wasn't on him. I don't think you can just nail it because when Ali Price came on, things didn't pick up.
No, it didn't.
It was
did
just
it? So
gash. I believe said Sam Jones had a shocker. Usually doesn't. The fellow outside of him, who I still am not.
Are you declaring Nick Grigg Voldemort? Are you saying he who shall not be named?
I just don't think he's right. He'll have a couple of good charges a game, and sometimes he'll have great games. I just don't get why successive managers have had such a hard on for picking him.
I do get. So I take your point. I think he's he's always had some of the raw materials that people have wanted in a 13 for Glasgow. And I've always been quite surprised that he's been picked above some of the 13s we've had.
Stafford McDowell.
Where is Stafford? Like,
I don't know. Where's Stafford McDowell?
Like, I think we're going to change where's Dougie Donnelly to where's Stafford McDowell. If anyone knows where Stafford is, like, I mean, I don't want to put him in a milk carton, but where is Stafford?
I'm not raging talking about this game. I'm fucking. Oh.
Whoa! You are flicking.
I'm smoking a cigarette now.
You're smoking a cigarette. Oh my goodness! Right, I'm going to put you in the sin bin for that, Ian. Yeah, I mean, Nick Griggs. The problem I've got with Nick Grigg is he came back from lockdown, and he has not come back from lockdown well. He is not anywhere near professional rugby standard of fitness. He doesn't look like he used to, and it's not for the better. And we're not body shaming here. We're not saying that rugby players have to be one size or anything, but his game is built on power, pace, and like strength, and he does not look fit. He looks very, very, very unfit. So,
have you ever touched Nick Grigg?
No,
I don't mean this in a sexual way at all.
No, right. I can't say I've touched Nick Grigg. Have you touched Nick Grigg?
Yeah, Scotland South Africa game a couple of years ago, right? So
why?
No, we were going into the Up and Under, and there's been a couple of mates, and it's like, all right. So him and Rory Lawson were outside talking. So I did the arms around the shoulders thing, and I was like the tallest dude there, which was quite bizarre for me. Like Nick Grigg felt like he was made out of bricks. like arm on the shoulder. I'm like, oh my god, what? Like through a big thick gap jumper, I can still just feel the bulging shoulder muscle.
Yep.
But then him and like Leone came back, and they've got bellies like mine, sort of thing. You're like, dude, you've got a job to do here, man. Well,
that's it. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's what it comes down to. Like, their job relies on them being physically fit. So, yeah.
Was discipline a major issue? Did we get anyone yellow card? That might have lost interest before we got anyone sent off again.
But no, I don't.
Like TJ Ioane's just been a bit of a car crash. Footlocker Tui does some decent things, but again, like when I was watching it back, there's times when I've just watching replay, you're like, why aren't you guys back at you can see a couple of phases beforehand, you're like, why aren't you sprinting back? Why are you two just jogging? Get back, get your arses back on side, get in that line. That stuff wouldn't have stood in the Townsend era in particular, especially not in the Sean Lanier era, which is when Glasgow's initial success was built on being a solid defensive team.
Aye.
And then Tooney came in and added a bit of flair.
And then Rennie came in and took that flair and amplified it and pissed everybody off.
And spent a fortune, which we haven't recovered yet.
No. Right. I am conscious that we are red couching this, right? This is therapy. So, Glasgow were utterly crap.
It's the Tommy Seymour tribute hour.
Aye, we let's talk about better things. So let's get ourselves onto this. Yes, it is Hands in the Ruck, which is our Any Other Business section. This is where we have a look at what is going on in the world. We vent our spleen. Yes, we have just done a lot of that, but we have our little rants, we have our little vents, and we generally try to get the red couch out, do a wee bit more therapy. So, on our super secret Facebook page, which roll all the way back to that banner previously, you can get yourself on there with
Have you not got the trippy hedge thing?
I didn't do the trippy hedge thing.
Let's do the trippy hedge thing.
I'll just pull a trippy hedge thing out. I was too busy finding Batman earlier on. Right, we'll just pop the Trippy Hedge thing in. There we go. That's some Manscaped got bush for you. Those of you that are listening on audio, Ian has insisted that we get that is the
Cammy
one.
mouthing off again, delaying things.
That's the Lawnmower 3. It's all good. So I now need to figure out how to get rid of the trippy thing. There we go. Right. So on to Hands in the Ruck. We've had a couple from our super secret group. Cammy's been a numpty. We'll just throw abuse at him in due course. So Jason Kirk watched the last 20 minutes of the women's match. Two things. Since when was a clothesline tackle not a red card? And when was and which excuse for a commentator was talking utter pee and might as well have been wearing a red shirt? I mean, there still seems to be a bit of a disconnect between the professional men's game at the upper levels and the TMOs and the red cards that are being issued. And it's not exclusive to the women's game, because if anyone has seen Mr. Owen Farrell recently and his utter nonsense in the championship, which was a red and a 6-month ban all day. And yes, I don't like Owen Farrell, so write me letters. I don't care. It's difficult because you're trying to encourage people to take up the sport, and then you're letting that sort of stuff away. Doesn't it really work?
Yeah, but you look at what Molly Wright got sent off in the Scotland game for, and then that challenge. I can't mind who it was, the Welsh player, but there's just such a discrepancy in an application of the laws, even though it's all sort of guidelined out and written down and all that. Yep. I'm just fed up of talking about referees.
I know. Well, let's not. Let's talk about one of everyone's favourite Scottish rugby icons. I'm looking to see if Cammy had added a jingle for him. He hadn't. We used to have a sector. A sector? That's not even a thing.
No,
a section.
It is now.
It is a sector. We had a sector involving Jim Telfer, who is officially cancelled. Jim Telfer is... We're throwing a woke klaxon at him. Jim Telfer is cancelled. Sorry, guys. Anyone that thinks Jim Telfer is cool, he is gone. Jim Telfer has terrible taste in curries, it turns out. So Jim Telfer came out and said that he would love to have a sit down with Hamish Watson and tell him why he wasn't going to be in his Lions squad, because our boy Curry from England is a better, bigger, stronger player. Ian, go for it.
I don't think he said he wouldn't be in. He wouldn't be in the 23. I think he said he'd put him in the squad, but again,
sorry, I was being in the squad as in the 23 because Hamish Watson should be a Lion starter. Let's be honest.
I would definitely agree with that. I don't think it's just because I'm biased. Right.
No, it's not because you're biased.
The thing is, I'm a Glasgow fan, for Christ's sakes, and I absolutely adore Hamish Watson. Hamish Watson is like one of my favourite Scottish rugby players of the last 20 years, if not of all time. He's just magnificent, everything he does. And it came down to Tom Curry's bigger and stronger. No, he isn't.
No, he's not.
No, he's not.
He's the same size.
He's maybe like, I don't know, half an inch taller, which just means he's not as low to the ground. So when it gets to Jacqueline time, somebody else was arguing with Cammy and said, I don't actually think it was on the thread he was arguing with Cammy, but he said, I want my 7 to be a good jackler. And I was just looking at like, man, are you trying to say that Hamish Watson can't jackal? But who's the one that's won most turnovers in the last 4 years? There is no player in world rugby who's won more turnovers in the last 2 or 3 years than Hamish Watson, with the possible exception of Michael Hooper.
Yep. I think this is a great example of the So, rugby continues to have this wonderful reverence for people of a bygone era. This is just an example of, actually, do you know what? Sometimes people who used to play the game talk rubbish. And this is a terrible example. Jim Telfer is talking mince. Great coach though he is out of touch. He has no idea. He clearly doesn't watch Hamish Watson. He has no idea who he is. Yeah, it's or he's been paid a lot of money by English press.
Like Walt Claxon. That almost
we're doing it. All right.
That almost sounds a bit like ageism. I believe that Jim Heather watches a lot of rugby, but I don't understand where people are getting this sort of.
If he watched a lot of rugby, he would clearly understand that Hamish Watson's a far superior.
I wouldn't say far superior, but I'd just say better. And the main thing is, like, my go-to on this is that if you're playing South Africa, you do not want to give away penalties. Hamish Watson does not give away penalties. If you give away penalties, all you do to South Africa, if you say, all right, well, I think Henry Pollard's injured, actually, but all you're saying to them is, all right, stand off, hoof that deep, there you go, line out. There you are. And then what's going to happen? Etzebeth and, I think Etzebeth's injured as well now, and Lud de Jager will just, or Snyman if he's back, but he won't be back, I don't think. But anyway, right, South Africa just beat absolute monsters of packs, right? They will maul you to death. They will scrum you and maul you to bits. Do not give them territory. That's, John's disappeared and it's just me now. Oh, no luck. Right. So don't give South Africa any time. Don't give them possession. Don't give them territory. They'll kill you. They will crush you into bits. So it's a ludicrous idea to suggest that Hamish Watson shouldn't be picked because he's too wee, because it's nonsense. Man, John's gone. So I'm going to start freestyle rapping now. Before John comes back, I'm not. So my hands in the rock, seeing as John is away, is James Haskell. I don't know if any of you saw this, but there was a bit of a confrontation between Mr. Haskell and a farmer at the weekend because he let his dog off the leash and the dog ran wild. Farmer said to him, obviously there's no video evidence of this or none that I've seen, but Haskell then got arsey about it, and that's not the biggest issue. John's back now.
Hey, I don't know what the hell happened there. My internet just absolutely tanked. It's because I blame Jim Telfer.
All right, and Sam has just confirmed it's him after Twitter. So I just started talking about James Haskell while you're away.
Fair enough, reasonable.
But with the issues that he's had, so he was told by a farmer in no uncertain terms to put his dog on a leash. He didn't take kindly to it. Now, he has been sent some abusive messages directly on Instagram. But you know what? It's his replies which are just... John's away again. His replies are absolutely appalling on this. It's just so misogynistic and also just really... This is... I think arseholey won't get me banned. So, for example, one of them, the worst one, as far as I'm concerned, is one woman's messaging him saying, "You're so unaware of how you're coming across, aren't you? You seem like the biggest sweary word for male genitalia in a long time." His reply to this is, "It's not the first time I've heard the biggest male genitalia I've come across come from out of a woman's mouth." This is a continuing trend of James Haskell being a bit of a misogynist ass, right? So for those of you who don't know, when I think he was a university student, he got either suspended or expelled because he covertly taped one of his friends having sex with somebody, right? This is not the actions of a guy who should... I don't know. Right, for all he's Archbishop of Banterbury nonsense, right? This isn't banter. This is just horrible, cliched tripe and also massively misogynistic. John, did you hear anything of what I've said there? John's back, by the way, for those of you who...
I did, yes. I was having a watching brief while I cracked another beer.
I thought you were going to say something else there. Sorry,
I
that's
was,
a
no,
bit halfway.
I was giving you
Yeah,
front,
I was cracking one off. What is it you talking
cracking
about?
a
Me
beer,
being
innit?
the
Yeah.
Archbishop of Canterbury.
I was giving
even
you
calling yourself the Archbishop of Canterbury marks you out as an absolute bell end.
anyone who thinks that's a good nickname for themselves needs to go and just jump.
Any rugby group, right, which has the word banter in it, it's going to be full of absolute
Plats.
aye.
Roman Plats.
And, you know what really pissed me off is I've seen a video of him apologising on Twitter. He's like, "Oh, if you want to see the full sort of," it's not even an apology. It's more of a, "Oh, this is why I said this," which it's like if someone says, "Oh, I'm sorry, but," see, if you say "I'm sorry, but," you are not sorry, are you? You're trying to explain yourself. You're trying to excuse your. Can I say dicky? I don't know. Right, you're trying to explain yourself being an ass, right? And this is just, it is some of it's abhorrent, and like the fact that if you're a high-profile figure, you don't respond to people in this manner, you know. And it's been the thing is, right, he's actually shared these by himself of his own accord. He'd be like, "Oh, listen, I'm getting like verbally abused, blah blah blah," and then you're hitting it with stuff like this, things like, "For moron, oh, what a moron you are. For moron, I'm going to read that as what a hero I am." It's like, this is absolute cliche pish, mate, right? And also, you've like, so there's a guy called Bruce McConaughey. I imagine Johnny follows you on Twitter. He follows me on Twitter. No, he's a farmer. And he was saying, "No, mate, you're completely wrong. This is the code." You know, like the National Sheep Association said, "Look, this is why you shouldn't let sheep off a leash, even if you think it's publicly fine if there's no sheep about." Like things like even leaving a dog's turd on arable land or farming land can lead to cows having to abort calves and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's really bad.
And why did he not just say, "I'm sorry"? You know, there's nothing wrong going, "You know what? I didn't like how this person approached me and spoke to me about it. And I didn't like how these people spoke to me about it. But I'm sorry, I was wrong."
I appreciate the message.
He hasn't done that. All he's done is gone, "Oh, I'm getting abused." Blah, blah, blah. Right, and you talk about like people like us being like woke, greeting face, you know? No, you're being a prick because you're not accepting the fact that you're at fault here. He was completely at fault.
He was.
And he hasn't said sorry, and instead he's just given it the "oh, poor me" nonsense, right? So fuck off. Right, him and Marla, right? See, people go, "Oh, him and Joe Marla, oh, their autobiographies are great, blah blah. Oh, they're so honest and they're so blunt, they're so funny." Do you know why they're so open and so and funny and what have you? Right? Because they've left out the good bits. Because there are people employed once they've written those books. They send them off, and someone will go, "No, can't say that." Editors, people have edited out the crap, right? People have edited out them being assholes, and they don't admit to some of their arseholy behaviour. Right, Haskell, like behind him, like in terms of when he mouthed off at Israel Folau. But the thing when he mouthed off at Israel Folau is because I think, is his brother gay? That'd probably be the only reason he'd mouth off at Israel Folau, or is it Marler? Right.
But there's like a really obvious with the Israel Folau stuff as well. It's like really obvious to be on the right side of history. It's like it's no difficult to get it wrong, really, is it?
No, unless I haven't seen it, but unless you're Doug Ross, apparently last night.
Yes. Oh yeah, well,
Christ.
that's as close. That's not. We're not going to do politics.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, what we're saying is, in a shocking turn of events, James Haskell, the Archbishop of Canterbury, is in fact an idiot. If anyone wants further confirmation of this, Google James Haskell Roman Platt conversations and just watch. Just watch. James is clearly stupid.
I loved how the fact somebody said like, and the guy didn't even know the rules of his own game. So how does he know the rules about like being on a farmland?
Exactly. Yes. I think that summarises it pretty well, doesn't it?
I mean, something I try to like these people, and then they just piss all over my chips.
Yeah, I mean, I'd given James Haskell, like, I tried to give him a bit of leeway.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm all for characters in the sport. Yes, I'm, like, for those on podcast audio only, I'm doing air quotes. I'm all for characters, but he's an idiot. He's just an idiot.
There's characters, and then there's just being entitled.
And I think that's what rugby needs to continue to steer away from. You know, we've got characters in Scottish rugby who are not, they don't come across as entitled. They don't come across as expecting everything to be handed to them, including the rules of their own game by the referee. So, James Haskell, get in the sea, is what we have to say to you.
And take your DJ decks with you.
Oh, yes, please. And your JCB. Because, yeah, I mean, I love a JCB, but not in James Haskell's hands. That's not a good thing. Not a good thing.
We do love our JCB socks, don't we? I think
we do, yeah. We're big fans. Yeah. If you need to get yourself some good socks, I mean, I think there's a potential promo going here. Like, we could definitely get sponsored by JCB socks. Some good ones here.
Yeah, man. See the new ones? Not as impressed with them, by the way. I don't know. I feel like my heel's going to go through them.
Oh dear. So my hands that up is the so people continue to talk about the various players that exist in Scottish rugby world, particularly players that play in the Premiership, and they talk about them having worldy games. Now, I watched quite a lot of Premiership rugby this weekend because I now have BT Sport, and it's basically all I'm recording is Premiership rugby and Pro 14 rugby and Silicon Valley. That is my plan.
Silicon Valley is absolutely magnificent.
great. I've just finished season 2 again. I've watched it before, but I'm working my way back through it. It's fantastic. If you haven't watched it, get on it, guys. It's really good.
It's the funniest programme ever made.
Yeah, anyway, the end of season 1 is a ridiculous situation that is just beautiful. But anyway, we talk a lot about players playing the Premiership. The Premiership have this entitlement that they seem to believe that it's the best league in the world and it's the best standard of player in the world, and that anyone playing well in that league must be an absolute worldie. I don't want to be the guy to burst that bubble, but the Premiership's a bit rubbish. Like, the standard of play, it's better this season, but in general, it's a bit rubbish. And just because a player's playing well at the Premiership level doesn't mean they're going to be a Scotland international. Doesn't mean they're going to tear up trees for Scotland. Doesn't mean anything. It just means they're playing all right for their club.
And it particularly doesn't mean that they should automatically be picked for the Lions. So I'm seeing this. I mean, like BT Sport and Prem Rugby are like giving this heavy push for Marlar to be put on the Lions tour.
Ridiculous.
I mean, this is a guy who has twice turned down going to England camps. Like, I don't want to be with my family for too long. But you know, it comes to a World Cup Alliance tour. Oh, your son. Oh, yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah. All of a sudden, we can cash in for the last contract, eh?
Yeah. I might have part 2 of my autobiography to sell. No, and let's be honest. I mean, is he that? He's not a better player than Wyn Jones or Rory Sutherland or anything like that, is he? He's just a noise merchant.
That's right. He's a throwback to when props got by on their banter. And yes, I use that term very ironically.
Well, you didn't say bants.
Bents. They got by on the bents, and he's not that good a rugby player. Sorry, guys. If anyone's a Joe Marler fan, you're listening to the wrong podcast.
So, did you see Haskell's Lions squad of 40 odd? He had.
Was he in it? Did he pick himself?
No, he's not quite that vain. But he had
Shocked.
Mako and Genge.
Mako and Genge in a Lion squad would be hilarious because you're going to watch a scrum get. The South Africans would be looking at that going, oh, look at this fresh biltong. We're going to absolutely munch this.
Diplomatic immunity.
All right. I think we're about to set a new record
Yeah.
here. So I think we should wrap up. If there's any more for
He
anymore,
loses, he's not his.
I know he's got it. I know. I assume he's not.
Man, this would have been like an hour if it wasn't the fact that Tommy Hero retired.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're just devastated. I've actually got more stuff I could talk about, but no, we have to wrap up.
I think we should do a Patreon special for Tommy Seymour. That'd be beautiful.
Oh, Captain Mike. Did he ever captain Glasgow?
He didn't captain Glasgow, no.
He bloody well should have.
He should have, yeah. But I mean, I'm half tempted to stand in my chair just now and say, "Oh, captain, my captain," as we finish up.
Oh,
do it,
right.
I think I can. Right, there we go. I'll tilt this way. Right, there we go. Right. Oh, captain, my captain.
Oh, captain, my captain.
Right. Good evening, guys. It's goodbye from me and goodbye from Ian.
Ciao.